Closing up an LLC. In the life of every business, eventually at some point, the business is going to be closed. A lot of times that might be because of a failure. Maybe there's a partnership dispute. Maybe it's something positive, like you sold the assets to somebody else and an asset sale got a big check. And at some point, you need to wind down that legal entity. Because remember, in an asset sale, it's one of the ways we can do a merger and acquisition using that term broadly. What you might do is sell your assets to somebody else. They're going to give a check back to the LLC. LLC is probably going to distribute the money to the owners, but at some point that LLC needs to be closed. Maybe you have liability issues. Maybe the business has liabilities exceed assets. Generally, the LLC statute, where the entity is formed, will have a process and procedure for how to wind up that LLC. Normally what you're going to do is figure out who your creditors are, pay them off to the extent you can, give notice to folks that you're winding up the business, work through all of that, and as you come towards the end of that process, you are going to then file a notice with the state. In some states it varies on the timing, but generally as you come to the end of this process, you've paid off the assets, you've completed the business, you'll do a filing with the state. You did a filing to form the LLC when you started. And at the end, you'll work through the process with the statute, which we'll talk about how to deal with the creditors, how to distribute money to the members. Your LLC/operating agreement may come into play here. You're going to work through some procedure, and at the end, the money is going to go out. For a simple LLC, you might be able to read that statute and work through it. You may not have a lot of creditors. There may not be issues. Maybe everything's a known amount of liability. You don't have open lawsuits. Very simple. In more complex situations, you might need to get a lawyer involved. You might need somebody to look at it. How much should we reserve? Who do we have to notify? Who is a creditor? Who isn't? Some states talk about known claimants. Is it a known claimant? Is it not a known claimant? These are issues that can get a little more complex. But at the end of the day, there is generally a procedure there for you to follow and work through. You follow that procedure, and then what you're hoping to get is protection from a clawback. What you don't want is obviously there coming up some issue after the money is distributed where the money has to go back to creditors or other people. So if you do the procedure right, you're probably going to get statutory protection under your law. So you need to look at where you're formed, look at that wind-up procedure. In rare cases, and this is kind of more advanced, and we can go into it more in another video if some folks comment below. I'll talk about comments in just a minute. But you may want to change your state of formation before you wind up. We had one a couple of years ago where somebody wanted to potentially wind up an LLC, and there was some uncertainty under the particular state they were formed in. But if we moved on to another state, we may have had a lot more easy and simple wind-up procedure. So that is something you may want to consider as well. Although that would be kind of advanced, maybe a lawyer-type move to change the state of formation, then attempt to wind up. That may have other issues involved with it too, such as notices and amendment provisions, etc. So you got to work through that carefully. Speaking of comments, love your comments and questions. Sometimes we get great ideas for future videos and ideas from viewers like you. But remember, your comments are not confidential. They will not be protected. Other people will see them. So for confidential conversations, reach out to an attorney. Keep your comments general. Not company specific. Obviously, we can't provide advice over a forum like this anyway. That's something you would do in person with your attorney or over the phone or internet. And I hope you subscribe to the channel so we can join each other for more videos soon. Thanks for tuning in today, folks. Go check out our whole library of past videos here on the channel.